But glad to have you on here. I'm excited always to talk with you because we got to check in on a few things. I was thinking about saving this for the end, but I'm gonna lead off with it here. I'm curious how the Knuble boys are doing. We haven't checked in on the Knuble boys here and their up and coming careers.
Yeah, well, Cam finished at Western Michigan, right? They won the national championship.
Oh yeah,
there. Cam, our
big
oldest.
finish.
Yeah, so he was part of that, which was a lot of fun. In St. Louis they won and just played some real good hockey. Probably starting this time last year, Western Michigan played really, really well. They're kind of formulating the same MO again, I think, as a group. But really started playing a lot of good hockey like come February and then became unbeatable in March and even probably won a game or two they shouldn't have, but that's what you got to do to win the whole thing. So currently plays at Kalamazoo, the Kalamazoo Wings, down there in Wings Stadium. And the team's been around a long time, like 50 years, there's a lot of hockey history down there, pro hockey history. And so he's learning. It's, it's been, some ups, some downs, some in between. So I think overall he's enjoying it and kind of enjoying the experience. He kicked around maybe going to Europe or something like that, but ended up in Kalamazoo, which we've been very happy with. And then Cole, our younger guys at Notre Dame, they've kind of had a little bit of a down year in the Big Ten. And he's been, he's been much better the second half of the season. So the team is, coming down to the end here, and I think they got Minnesota at home this weekend, but they got 4 or 5 weekends left. But certainly a down year this year in the Big Ten, which is hard to watch, hard to play for them, and you worry about the kids. You just wish they could win a few more games, but they're giving a good effort, and so a little bit frustrating in that respect for sure. But still, he's it's a challenging character a lot as a kid, as a player. When it's a down year, and how to keep fighting and keep preparing and keep training and keep your spirits up and show up and play hard every night. So it's a lot on those kids to throw the school on top of it. It's a lot weighing them down, but they're trying and they're giving it they're learning a lot about themselves this season.
Well, you talked about that a little bit the last time we had you on in regards to Cam, because they had obviously he had to persevere through some things in his career and then ended on the ultimate high note with, like you said, with Coach Furschweiler and the great run that they had to the championship. I'm glad to hear he's in Kalamazoo. I didn't track that, so we'll have to keep track of him here. He must have liked being in Kalamazoo. That's a smooth transition to go from your college town to just playing minor league hockey in the same town.
Yeah, certainly there's a comfort level, and then some people have gone to college after 4 or 5 years. You're kind of like, I got to get out of this town, But there's certainly two different lifestyles. I mean, there's not much crossover. It's not like he's hanging around on campus or anything like that. They keep him pretty busy, and when he's at Western, he played a little bit of forward, a little bit, mostly forward, but he could play some defense too. And Joel Martin, the coach there in Kalamazoo, has called on him to do that at the pro level too. So I think it's been very good for him. He's played center, he's played left wing, he's played right wing, he's played defense. So the only thing he can't play would be goal, because that would be not very good. But he's played all over, and I think that's helped him at this level. And it's kind of helped him stay on the team. And that league, the East Coast League, where Kalamazoo plays, is there's players tend to come and go a bit. They come and they go, they're signed, they're released. So he's made it through, but I think his versatility has kind of helped him out. So I kind of got on that a little bit with Pat and at Western, and it's kind of carried over. So it's kind of followed, that reputation followed him to Kalamazoo Wings, and they've called him on it a few times, to have him play defense. So, so you learn pro hockey. That's how you got to figure out a way to survive sometimes and make yourself valuable.
Have you still been following Coach Pat and the crew, even though Cam's moved on?
You keep an eye on things. You keep an eye on, especially in the state of Michigan. College hockey's been extremely strong. You have Michigan and Michigan State are 1 and 2, and then Western's right in the top 5 there. And so it's great to see, just especially for the younger kids who want to play college hockey in the state of Michigan, or kids from the state of Michigan that want to play in the state of Michigan. It's pretty good run going right now for the in-state schools. So. So I guess you do keep tabs on them. You just kind of have overall looking at the big picture in college hockey, what's going on this year.
Well, I thought you were going to have one less destination to go to now that Cam was out, but I guess you're still going to Kalamazoo and then following Cole on tour for his games at Notre Dame too.
Yeah. We still end up, when they play 70 pro games, it's not like college games. There's only like 30 of them, so they're a little more like events you look forward to. Pro games, if there's 70 of them, you can miss a couple here and there, and it's not that big a deal. But like last weekend we were in Madison, Wisconsin, and watching Notre Dame play at Madison, and which was a great town, great hockey building these days. They draw 10,000 people, huge building. They split with basketball and hockey, share the same building, and they get a lot of people there on a Saturday night. That's for sure. So great college town. So yeah, we are going around, and still every weekend. No rest for the weary. Last year we'd split. We'd be like one night in South Bend, one night in Kalamazoo if they both were home, and now it's kind of just following one team around the Big Ten. So, and I like it too. I hadn't seen a game in Wisconsin. I hadn't seen a game down in Ohio State. So, seeing some places we haven't been yet, this year. So, I'm enjoying that. Every big campus, Big Ten campus, they're amazing in their own way. It's such an unbelievable conference, and the schools that are in there just big time sports, big time money, big time productions. Just They do things the right way. So it's really cool to go check them all out.
That's what I always say too, Mike, because I went to Indiana University, but there's a lot of good schools in the Big Ten, and they're all Big Ten schools. I think we can get caught up in the rivalries. Well, you went to this school, so this program's not as good, or we're a rival on the football side, or what have you. But they're all Big Ten schools, and it's a very quality conference. Especially now, they're expanding the competition really in every sport, including hockey. They just had the Michigan State-Michigan game, but including hockey with Notre Dame, and all of the competition at really every level in all of these sports is high end, as is the education. So yeah, they're all Big Ten schools, and they're all good schools. It's funny because Wisconsin's the only place that I've actually seen a Big Ten hockey game, even though I didn't go there. So that's a nice arena. Yeah, that has to be fun to do an arena tour for you, since you know those so well, and you can kind of go around and see the different nuances of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, you like to see how they produce games, what they do, and the vibes in each rink. And so I thought Wisconsin was good the other day. And obviously everybody's been to Yost, you've been to Munn. I've been out to Penn State, been, probably pretty much everywhere else, Minnesota a couple times. So I guess Ohio State would be the last one I haven't been to, but we'll catch that one at the end of the season here. But, the schools they put, to see their, and then see the vibes of the campus too, like all the tons of bars, like Wisconsin's got a ton, Madison got a ton of bars, and then, the lake is frozen out back by the Union, and they're having a big party out on the lake, like their winter celebration. The frats are out there, like with their ice hockey rink, kegs of spotted cow, and their rink shoveled off, and the frats are all out there, playing hockey. Like it's awesome. They embrace the winter, and every school just does things a little bit differently, and it's all cool. It's all great to get out there and see and appreciate all these Big Ten schools, how they operate, and what the experience is for the kids that go there. Not only the athletes, but just the kids that go, and the fun they can have there. And they're to have their fun in their 4 years there at college. It's an awesome experience too.
Oh, yeah, that's an underrated one to see live, too, because obviously the focus oftentimes gets drawn to the football programs and then maybe secondarily the basketball programs, but you can't beat a live hockey game, especially on a college campus. So that's cool that you've been able to do that. I do want to turn our attention to the pro side of things a little bit, but we'll take a quick break and then come back with Mike Knuble and talk about one of his former teams, the Wings, and how he thinks they're doing. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back here with Mike Knuble of Red Wings fame here. I wanted to talk some Wings with him because the team is kind of on the rise here, Mike, but I'm curious what you think about them. Now they're headed into the Olympic break, and it's probably well-timed by how things have been going lately, but I'm curious what's stuck out to you now that they have kind of the first full year of McClellan being in charge. He had an off season to be able to get everything in place. I was impressed by what he did last year because he really got on a moving train to get there and not even know the guys' names for the first game practically, and then to have to pick it up mid-season. Now it's clear that they've been able to get some guys that work well in the system and get all of their different plans in place for this year. But I'm curious what's stuck out to you from your expertise here.
Well, yeah, I mean, come in last year, you look, it's kind of, it's really kind of the same lineup, and they've had some real growth from the inside, like guys like Simon Edmondson, and, he's had a real nice, been a nice addition, really, like pairing with Mo Sider. You get James Van Riemsdyk come in and give them a nice boost, but like their best players have played like their best players, which has really been good. Lucas Raymond's doing his stuff, and same with DeBrincat, Larkin's they're playing their game. Sider's eating up a lot of ice time, doing a good job, staying real healthy. But and they've gotten good goaltending too as well. And so I think maybe that might be the difference. Basically it's two different goalies, from last year, and that maybe solidified things here a little bit because. I think they both have pretty good winning records in that, and I think it's solidified the goal. I think last year was a little bit of a mess in goal. I think the team paid the price a little bit. Derek Lalonde did too a little bit, but this year it seems to be much more consistent in goal, and I think that's a big thing. If you remember, like last year they were mixing Husso in, and then it was like. I don't know who else they had in there. There was a couple of guys they had in, was it Alex Lyon? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, and then Mrazek was in the mix by the end of the year.
Who was?
Well, then they traded for Mrazek at the end of at the trade deadline.
Yeah, they had Peter Mrazek. It was kind of a mess in net, right? So that was really, I think this year, the guys that have gone this year, basically Gibson and Talbot have really solidified it in goal, and I think that makes a big difference for everybody else. And so I think the teams are super consistent, too. They've had, they've got a run maybe going positively and maybe a smaller one negative here and there, but overall been super consistent, right? And more on the winning side. And I think they've won some tough games. They've won some 2-0, 1-0, 2-0. You go out to Colorado, you get whacked by them right before the break at home, but then you go out there and beat them, and you could conceivably drop. You get to see Colorado twice on your schedule at the end of the season or at the end of this break to the Olympics, and you're like, oh, we might drop these last two games. We don't want to see Colorado twice right before the break, but they end up earning a split, and both teams went on the road. And so that's a great feeling to head into the break and be in a playoff spot. You're a couple points out from falling to the wild card for sure, but that's how it's going to be to the end, right? And so you're going to have this massive sprint to the end. I think it's like 25 games, 24 games, something like that. And it's like in 40 days or something like that, something crazy. And it's just going to be this crazy sprint to the end, and it's going to be exciting, and you're not really going to know where these chips fall till game 82, right? To the end of the day, at the end of the season, you're not, nobody's going to be sure about anything to the 11th hour here, and if you're going to get in or not. But I do think for fans and that, how exciting it's going to be coming back, and you actually have something to watch, and kind of in this funny time of sports world, right? Baseball hasn't started yet, football's over. You want to watch the Olympics going to wrap up here, then you want to watch NHL hockey till the end here. And so I think it's going to be exciting for Wings fans.
Yeah, exactly. I think you made a lot of great points in there. One of them is the goalie situation, because they really did right-size it, I think, this year, because you hit on it last year. Talbot, I think, did the best job he could, but they were leaning on him too heavily, especially given his age and probably how many games he should have played last year. He was just the most viable goalie. They threw all those other guys that we mentioned in there, and it just didn't really work. Then Gibson arrived, but the thing I wanted to focus on with Gibson's arrival, I've been trying to tell people this, but this seems like a good question for you because you moved around some, and Gibson's a good goalie, but he was adjusting to a new situation, a new team. He had to adjust to how the defense was going to be played in front of him, how his team would interact with him, the new locker room culture. And when you move, it's just like any of the rest of us, as far as in quote unquote normal everyday jobs. You when you move, you have to relocate your family, you have to find a new place, you have to do all those things. Sure, you might have more resources to do that if you're a professional athlete, but you still have to do all those things. And so I felt like people were kind of overreacting. I was even saying that on the show when Gibson wasn't playing well in the early going. It's like, guys, you got to give him a little time, both to be comfortable on the ice and off.
Yeah, and he's a veteran guy. He'll get himself right-sided here and get the ship set right, But yeah, I mean, you're trying to be patient in October and November while guys get going and get comfortable. Like you said, they kind of find their groove and the rhythm of the team, and kind of how things work, and know what guys are going to do in front of them, and then as a goalie too. I mean, you got your job to stop the puck and. Get out there and stop the puck, and you can blame other things, I think, but and talk about other things, but eventually you got to get out there and just stop the damn puck. And so, goalies that realize that pretty quick in their careers be like, hey, I can't keep making excuses. I have a job to do, and I got to figure out how to do that job the best I can as fast as I can, changing to a city. But the Red Wing, the leadership there, Dylan Larkin, DeBrincat, Patrick Kane. Those guys are going to make him feel pretty comfortable and bring him in. Sherratt, the older guys, guys with some experience are going to bring him in and make him comfortable. So, but yeah, like he's been a pretty good anchor. Like that reduces the load on Talbot too, and Talbot can play better. It helps him play better too. So, goaltending again is where I think they've made the biggest improvement.
Exactly. And the fact that Talbot's a little fresher this year, I think, is going to help. If Gibson does have to go out, then you've got a fresh Talbot. You've got a lot of guys within the system too. I mean, you've got I felt like that's what we were doing all last year, is talking about the young guys, because Kosa and Augustine and others are looming in this system, but they weren't necessarily ready to be pulled up yet. So now you've kind of right-sized that situation. But you hit on a lot of other important guys on this team. It just does feel like it's coming together. I'm curious what you think of some of the young guys that have been on this team too, because there's guys that have kind of come out of nowhere, like Finney, and there are a lot of young guys on this team in general, and it seems like they've got a good mix between the leadership of Larkin and then Kane and Van Riemsdyk coming over, but then also have a young core that should be pretty sustainable for hopefully a while, as long as they can keep them together.
Right. I think, Finney's the main one. I think nobody saw that one coming, and these days, like when they build teams and salary caps, you got to predict your team through the summer, but he's one that they just kind of slid in there. And obviously with him probably making the rookie, max, he's not like a cap killer or anything like that, but a real nice ad. I think Sandy Pelika's played a lot of games. I mean, he's kind of taking his lumps in his own end a little bit, and learning a lot, but contributing a little bit offensively. And like I touched on earlier, Simon Edmondson is really, solidifying himself as, he kind of came in probably this time last year, probably started earning a full-time job about this point last year. And, he's kind of a unicorn the way he's built, being 6'6" and very mobile, really long stick. And, they don't just make him like that anymore, like very often. And so he's been a real nice bump, Marco Kasper continues to play, and they debuted Danielson, and, some of that, and conversely, what people forget is like some of this young play, this really good young play made Jonathan Berggren expendable, right? And so then he gets put on waivers because you have these young guys coming in and trying to take jobs. And so I think privately, like as a GM, you want to see that. That's what GMs want to see. They hate to see a player go and get put on waivers. Nobody's wishing that, but for an organization and that interior growth, as you can call it, is great to see where young guys come in, and there's a number of them knocking at the door, and unfortunately somebody has to get exposed to waivers, and you can't hang on to somebody becomes expendable.
Exactly. It's been nice that they've been able to kind of realign both rosters too, because obviously the Griffins are playing, as we know, in this area. I mean, they're playing out of their minds right now, and the talent level has really risen there because they were able to send some veterans down, and I think that helped with some of the young guys coming up. So I feel like that leadership really helped stabilize this team that's already laden with some good players and some young stars, but you layer in those veterans from the wings, and they're bringing a lot of experience down here to Grand Rapids.
Right. Well, I mean, the goal of the Griffins is not to have a bunch of vets down there,
no,
making $2 million and like not playing for the Red Wings. That's not the goal. And that's a sticky situation too for Dan Watson. You have, I think they got at times they've had 8 vets there, and you can only dress like 6 of them, and so you got this little rotation, and it's not necessarily based on merit, so that can be frustrating for guys too. But credit to all those guys. They've given a couple guys a shot. They've given Leonard a shot. Up here. and he came up and did a nice job. So, Gustafson's been up and down a little bit, and so, but, Grand Rapids has benefited big time from having some pretty darn good hockey players spend some time there, and really they already had a nice core group there, and then you throw in guys with, legit NHL talent coming down and playing for a while. All of a sudden you get on a pretty good run. Nobody could have predicted the run they got on to start the season, but it's pretty impressive what they've done in Grand Rapids too.
You make a good point about the trying to balance the veterans, though, because I do think it helps the locker room and everything. But it's not really the way the system is supposed to work. It's almost it's benefited them in some ways, but you do want those guys to be able to rotate back up, and it's nice that they're a little bit more jammed up talent wise, because that does mean they have some depth and can get rid of a guy like Berggren. I'm curious if you see them now. They're kind of in a trade freeze, but there's been a lot of talk of adding somebody, but they also have a lot of depth within the system and a lot of viable guys. So I'm curious if you see them doing anything as far as adding here once they can trade before the trade deadline.
Well, you heard rumors they're kind of kicking the tires in Vancouver, right, with Quinn Hughes. Steve has had a lot of draft picks and a lot of prospects, so that's your capital, right? And you can, eventually, nobody wants to get rid of young players, but eventually, you don't have room for them all, too. You know what I mean? Not every guy's going to play, so if you can lump them in and move them on and gain a veteran or two with it, somebody who's selling somebody and just cost you a couple prospects that you might not be super sold on. Then maybe you could do that. But I do think for this year, I think they're going to be probably in the buy-in mode a little bit more than they have been in years past. Really going to decide. And Steve will probably have a look. I'm sure he's got an internal timeline. He's like, hey, we come out of this break. I'm going to give it 7 games. And I'm going to see where we'll be at 7 games. And that, I don't know, maybe the trade deadline's in mid-March, early March. I don't even know where. Kind of first couple weeks of March typically. So that gives you maybe 5 to 7 games coming out of the break, and then, I'm going to see if we're going to go for this a little bit, So if the right deal's out there, probably not even just for this year, but, I'm maybe catching a guy that they can keep for a couple years, So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think, like I said, it'll be fun for fans coming out of that break. I think it's going to be a sprint, and probably there's, you like to keep your fingers crossed. They'll make a deal or two and try to push the team up further up standings.
I've got to think they're kind of working on that as they're headed into this Olympic hiatus. Obviously all these, it's even like the Gibson deal that was in the works for a long time. They tried to make a shot at that earlier and then didn't get it going until the off season. But like you said, I think your former teammate there, well, a few of your former teammates are working on a bunch of things there in the front office. And it's Friday, March 6th is the trade deadline this year. So I'm sure they're working on things to get prepared. But like you said, I think the fans are getting a good team this year and a good product, and hopefully they can build on it, because he's not only identified young guys pretty well and put a lot of good young guys in this system. A lot of the acquisitions they made over the offseason, like Gibson, who we talked about, Van Riemsdyk, Appleton, Bernard Docker, they might not be big names, but they've done pretty well within the system. So hopefully he can acquire some more players like that. But appreciate you joining the show, and appreciate the insights and hearing the updates about the Knuble boys here. Are you doing any? I know one of the last times we talked, you were kind of doing another podcast. Are you doing any of that kind of stuff right now, or just kind of focusing on the boys?
No. I was doing that when it was with the Flyers. With this kid, I was trying to help him out a little bit. Incidentally, like Cole's a Flyer, my younger guy's a Flyers draft pick. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. I kind of felt weird doing it. So, we kind of put it to rest. And the kid I was trying to help has moved on. And obviously he's trying to make his way in media. So probably he probably adjusted his sails a little bit when, pursue a different direction. But I don't know, it's just kind of getting weird. It's just kind of getting weird because my son was a Flyers pick, and then you're talking about the Flyers. I don't know. And my wife's kind of looking at me funny. She's like, are you sure you should be talking about this? I go, probably not much longer, so probably not, but it was fine. I was kind of getting into it a little bit. But then, all that Western stuff started taking over, and it got kind of busy and hectic, and it just made sense to step away a little bit. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, since if you ever have the itch, since neither of the boys plays for the Red Wings, we've got an extra mic here in studio, so you're welcome anytime, my friend.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, we're glad you could join the show, though, and we'll definitely look forward to having you back on when you're available, and we'll be keeping track of the boys and the Wings here and see how they do. But appreciate you joining, and we'll look forward to having you back.
You got it, Ryan. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Take care.